All right, let's get in the game today with MicroStrategy. What's happening with the price levels? What are the key resistance levels on price that MicroStrategy needs to break through? Strategy is the real name. I keep calling it MicroStrategy. And what do the moving averages look like on the 200-day moving average, the 50-day moving average? What's transpired here? So lots of cool news happening in the marketplace. Additional news going on with Bitcoin and large amounts of Bitcoin being moved recently, large purchases by Sailor on Bitcoin. So let's get in here to it right now. Okay, so number one, the bullish news is that when you look at the RSI, which is the relative strength index, it basically measures some key levels at 30 or 70. And so if you're above 70 on the RSI, it means that it's overbought right now. And so when you look at MicroStrategy, it's moving above the 50 level right now. So 70 would mean it's overbought, and that would be an indicator of like, oh, we might be hitting a peak. And 50 is just a bullish sign because we're like smashing above 50, and that means upward price momentum, and that means a bullish sign. And that's very, very good indicators for strategy. So I'm excited about that right now, which is great news. If we were below 30, that would mean that we're oversold, and it would be a really good time to buy. Not financial advice in this video at all, not tax advice, not legal advice, but I think it's really cool things that are happening right now in the marketplace, and it's very exciting. So if you're excited, let me know in the chat box down below. So as we know, we have this company strategy that is betting big on Bitcoin. And the company now holds over 500,000 Bitcoins. And it's also changing the way that Wall Street is viewing digital assets. Now, the precise number of Bitcoin the strategy owns is 506,000, a little bit of change. And it's pretty impressive what they've done, owning about 2.4% of the Bitcoin supply. So that's a big deal. I said on yesterday's show that if you look at Sailor, it's kind of like the CEO of Bitcoin. I mean, they own 2.4% of the supply. Let's be real, right? He believes that Bitcoin will hit $13 million in the next 20 years. And Sailor's role has really moved in a big way to where, he's bet his entire company on this. He's also become a key voice in global finance. So this guy's traveling around the world, speaking at all kinds of different summits on different platforms. He's advising wealth funds, he's advising institutions, he's advising governments. So when you really think about it, he's like the chairman. He's like the chairman here, who's actually the voice of strategy, which is super cool. So the other day, strategy bought 6,911 Bitcoin, $584 million in cash spent on this thing. So they're continuing to buy more Bitcoin. And while there has been some indicators that the whales are backing off in terms of buying, we have Sailor continuing to jump in and continuing to buy Bitcoin, and he continues to set the pace for the rest of the world, which is exciting. So that brings their holdings to over 506,000 Bitcoin. Their average price that they hold Bitcoin at is $66,000, and the value is now over $44 billion in Bitcoin, which is cool. If you look at the NAV premium of strategy recently, it's hovering around the 2 mark. We know that, months and months back, we were at like 1.4, 1.5. Now we're around the 2 mark on the NAV premium, which means that strategy is trading at a premium to Bitcoin. And like we were seeing in 2024, when the price was going up a whole bunch and the NAV premium was at 2, 3, even 4, that is good indicators for strategy. Strategy cracked over 340 today. We haven't seen that in a long time. So that's extremely good news for strategy. I like to see it because I remember when it was down about 226 about 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't good news. So strategy stocks popped about 14% recently, and it bounced from the 200-day moving average. So there's kind of like, imagine this line in the sand. It goes down and it bounces off the 200-day moving average, which is good because if it goes below it, it's kind of a bearish sign, but it bounces off the 200-day moving average, and then it busts through the 50-day moving average. And that's basically the stock's price over a 50-day period or a 200-day period. So the fact that it went past the 50-day moving average is a really bullish indicator. And then, as I mentioned before, the RSI, the relative strength index, it's bounced over 50, and that's a bullish indicator as well. Okay. So these are all very, very good signs. Now, A recent article I was reading today talks about the support levels of strategy, and the support levels are $232 and $180. Means those are the support levels, right? So if we go down and we go down to 232, we should bounce off that. Clearly, we saw that recently where we went down, we bounced off it, and we went back up. Okay. Now, resistance levels to look for that are important to look at is 383 is a key resistance level, $543 is a key resistance level, and $870 is a key resistance level. Yes, there are analysts talking about $870 price points. So if you're thinking the strategy could go to 800 or beyond, you're not the only one. I'm not the only one, because that's what I believe. Again, not financial advice, not legal advice, not tax advice in this show at all, and not investment advice. All right, so we know the strike offering and the strife offerings that recently took place. I read an article today also that talked about with these recent offerings that executives in strategy are gobbling it up. So apparently there's some executives that are really enjoying this with the 12% dividend that's being paid out on this offering. So with the strike offering, with the strife offering, they're both two separate offerings, but we do know that they are more fixed income offerings, and that's exciting. So MicroStrategy is issuing their preferred stock. People get in and they get a fixed return on this. And we know that institutional investors are liking this and more conservative investors are liking this. So this is very cool too. We also know that this is strike and strife are part of a $21 billion capital war chest plan by Strategy, which is good news, right? So they're still on the war path of $21 billion to raise and through issuing various instruments, whether it's strife, whether it's strike, whether it's convertible notes, whether it's issuing common shares. They have a war chest. They're filling up the war chest, and they're going in hard. And despite the fact that whales aren't pouring in hard right now, Strategy is pouring in big time, and they are setting the market pace. They're setting the sentiment for the marketplace, which is really super cool. As we know, Bitcoin jumped above $88,000. That's no surprise. And Strategy is obviously a catalyst for this, and it's exciting. So I'm super excited. If you're excited, let me know in the chat box what you're thinking right now, how you're feeling about Strategy's moves recently. I'm thrilled we're above 340, or at least we're above 340 at some point today. That's super exciting news. Now, we all know that the U.S. is exploring the Bitcoin reserve. Trump obviously signed the order on the Bitcoin reserve recently. But now we got Saylor, who's really stepped up to the mic. I mean, he's speaking at White House briefings, he's speaking at global summits, and he says, and he said this before, and he continues to say this: once the U.S. commits to a Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, the rest of the world will be forced to follow, like dominoes in a financial chain reaction. So the U.S. is setting the pace. We are going to be the crypto capital of the world, and that is a very, very good sign for Bitcoin. Also, companies that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I was watching an interview from Saylor earlier today, and he was talking about companies that hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. It's really good for U.S. business. And we are the leader in companies that are holding Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And if you think about Bitcoin as becoming one of the leading monetary structures in the world in the future, those who have Bitcoin on their balance sheet are companies that are going to be strong, companies that are going to be growing, companies that are going to be healthy, and companies spread ideas to the U.S. and spread ideas to the world. And so it's a really good thing. So I'm excited about that as well. At the end of the day, we also know that high risk via leverage. So Strategy is a higher risk stock. They do use leverage. It's why you see the volatility. If you listen to Saylor, he says volatility is vitality. Whatever your thoughts are on that. But volatility, that's what this stock is. It's volatility, volatility, volatility. But if you look at this year, it's outperformed the tech sector big time. It's outperformed the S&P 500 big time. And it still continues to crush it, even with the price point being around 340, where, obviously we know the all-time high recently has been 540 or above. So 340, I think, is still a very healthy price point right now, and I'm excited about the future. I still maintain my predictions. I think we're going to over 800. I think in a bullish case, we're going to 1,000 or 1,200, and that is my prediction, not financial advice. So this is exciting times. Strategy's got 506,000 Bitcoin, $44 billion in value and counting. Saylor's vision continues to hold strong for the country, for the world, for Strategy. and the world is following. And whether Bitcoin hits 13 million in the future, I don't know, but I don't think it's unreasonable for Bitcoin to hit 13 million in the future. If you do the math, that's not a huge percentage growth rate per year. I think it's about a 29 or 30% growth rate per year. So a lot of people think, well, my God, 13 million per Bitcoin is so high. But if you do the math, punch it in a calculator yourself, we do about 29 or 30% on average for the next 20 years, it would be a $13 million Bitcoin. So, and if you also look at Saylor's viewpoint on the fact that strategy will be about 8% higher than the S&P plus about 8%. So the S&P average is 14%. So the S&P plus 8% is about 22%. Or if the S&P goes up over the years, it would be S&P plus 8%. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Bitcoin will be replacing the S&P 500 index and doing much better than the S&P 500 index over the next 20 years. So the NAV premium of MicroStrategy, or strategy, I should say, is hovering around 2. There's also big news on Mara. Mara is another holder of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have 47,000 Bitcoin that they hold as a company. We know Strategy has 500,000 Bitcoin, so Strategy is about 10x that of Mara. But it's exciting to see other companies that are in the game and crushing it. So what do you think is going to happen with the NAV premium this year? Put it in the comments down below. Of course, it's not financial advice, but it is cool and it is exciting. I would love to see the NAV premium go up to 3. We're around 2 right now. Go up to 3 would be amazing. Also, news came in that Mt. Gox has moved 1 billion in Bitcoin. So they recently moved about 11,500 Bitcoin. They've sent it to a couple different wallets, 2 different wallets. In the past, this type of news would have rattled the market, but look at Bitcoin right now, sitting at 88,000 or 87,500 right now. So pretty interesting to see what's happening. There's exciting things that are going on in the world today. I'm super stoked about it. Let me know in the comments what you think and where you think strategy is going next and where you think Bitcoin is going next. I hope this serves you. Keeping it short today, and I'll see you guys on the other side.